Hey guys, this is Troy from Cape Ann Conversations, and I have a special one for everyone today. We've got Rick Roth from the Cape Ann Vernal Pond team with us. And if you're listening to this, we're going to have a day that you need to check out visually as well on our YouTube channels and our social media channels like Instagram, because we are going to meet some local critters today, aren't we, Rick?
Yes, we are.
And I'm going to pass it over to you to give a little bit of history on the Cape Ann Vernal Pond team, when it got its start, how it got its start. So tell us where this all began for you.
Well, for me, it all began in kindergarten. I was walking home from school one day and I found a little snake coiled up by the side of the road. And I thought that was very interesting. And I picked it up and took it home and put it in a cardboard shoebox. And it got loose out of that after about 10 minutes and I never saw it again. But it was instrumental in my life because I was kind of hooked on critters, and I really especially like the creepy crawlies, like snakes, turtles, frogs, salamanders, things like that.
And then fast forward from kindergarten, the Cape Ann Vernal Pond team started where and when?
Well, a guy took me out in early March at night to a vernal pool in Ipswich. I didn't really know what a vernal pool was at the time, but the frogs were quacking. That's what our first frog that comes out is called a wood frog, because they live in the woods and they come to the pools to breed and they quack. If you're in the distance, it just sounds like 50 ducks calling. The frogs were quacking and the salamanders were all swimming around in the pool. And of course, we were out there with our flashlights and our waders looking at all this stuff. And then these little tiny crustaceans, inch and a quarter long maybe, fairy shrimp, are all swimming around in there doing this kind of underwater ballet that they do. And it was just really spectacular. And I had always been a critter person, but it never occurred to me to start looking for frogs and salamanders and things like that at that time of year. I thought it was too cold and they weren't going to come out yet. Well, there they were. So that was kind of my introduction to, not only was I wrong about when some of these animals would come out, but also where they breed. And vernal pools, temporary pools, they usually dry up in the summer and they're usually not very big. Some of them are no bigger than this room, 20 by 20, something like that.
Give us actually, that's a good segue. Give us a little understanding on what, or a definition of what a vernal pool or vernal pond is, because some people might be thinking, what makes it that?
Yeah. Well, vernal means spring. And part of the requirements to be a vernal pool is it has to hold water in the springtime. Most of them actually dry up in the summer. And you'd think that if that happened to a wetland, that it would be kind of useless. But as it turns out, it's actually very beneficial to a lot of species. So say, for instance, they can't have fish because they dry out in the summertime, and fish are responsible for a whole lot of predation. So all those animals that can live and lay their eggs in there, and then their larvae, like the tadpoles, if it's a frog, they'll be able to get through there without a lot of fish predation and ultimately grow into adult frogs and hop away from the pool, grow up for a few years, and then return to the pool to breed.
Do it again.
Yeah. So it's basically a fishless habitat. I've seen some of them that are smaller than this room. The smallest vernal pool I ever saw that was viable, that actually had the salamander eggs in it, was about 6 feet in diameter and about 4 feet deep. Then I've seen some that are 500 feet across. So it varies quite a bit.
And the Cape Ann Vernal Pond team's job is to protect these, is to certify these vernal ponds and pools.
That's right.
And then through that process of certifying them, protect them.
Yes. And what we do is we go out in the relatively early spring, usually in March and April, and that's when the wood frog eggs and the spotted salamander eggs, those are what we call obligate species. They're pretty much obligated to breed in vernal pools because if they breed in a fish pond, the fish will just eat all their eggs and larvae. So those are two animals that the state recognizes as vernal pool obligate species. And they don't want to just know that those species are there. They want to see breeding evidence, which is eggs. So when wood frogs and salamanders lay eggs, they're about the size of a quarter, maybe in diameter. It's an egg mass with 40 to 80 eggs in it. But they sponge up overnight with water, and they actually get to about the size of a tennis ball. So for the most part, they're pretty easy to see in there, and they often lay them in clusters. I've seen clusters of 40 or 50 spotted salamander eggs. They're just kind of all stuck together, and they usually attach them to a branch or a twig that's kind of above the surface of the bottom, because there's a lot of, little crawlies down there in the leaf litter that would eat those eggs. But as long as they're suspended in the water, then they're pretty safe.
Yeah. So going back to the Cape Ann Vernal Pond beginning, what year did you guys start?
1990. And what happened was, after I went out on this very exciting field trip, I took a couple people out in my neighborhood where I knew there was some small wetlands, and we checked them out. And sure enough, they were vernal pools, and the frogs were quacking, and the salamanders were swimming, and everything was happening. And there was like 3 of us, but
ever
since then, even later that year, we got a few more people to come out with us. And then the following year, we got a few more people to come out with us. And then somebody said, I can't remember who, well, we ought to be an organization. And I'm thinking, we don't need to do that. And it was like, no, you got to do that. It's like, okay, we need a name. What's the name? Cape Ann Vernal Pond Team. Most people call them vernal pools. At the time, the literature that we had called them vernal ponds, and so now we're the Cape Ann Vernal Pond Team. Almost everybody else uses vernal pool, but we stuck with the name because that's our name.
It's interchangeable.
Yeah, it is. So anyways, over time, we started to get more people. I found out early you need more artists than you need biologists. I don't know if I'm pointing this the right way. I think I am.
Yeah.
And this logo was created by a Cape Ann artist, Helen Ann Lind, and she was also, going out on field trips and checking this stuff out. So she made our logo, and then we started to just do more and more stuff.
One of the biggest outcomes that you guys have are actual certifications of vernal ponds to protect them.
It's true.
How did you go about figuring out that process of certifying a vernal pond?
Well,
because you had never done that before.
No.
It was new to you,
yes,
even though you
was.
loved critters.
Yes. It was new to everybody because I think it was a fairly recent thing. I don't think vernal pool certification really predated 1990 by much, which is when we started. So anyways, we were very fortunate that Leo Kenny and his students at Reading High School found these wetlands on the school property, and they didn't know what they were, small wetlands, so they started to investigate them and found out that in fact they were vernal pools. And then they did all this different studies about different animals that live and breed and eat there and all kinds of stuff. And they created wicked big puddles, which I thought was really cute. They basically wrote a description of the pools, the kind of animals you can find in them, and guidelines as to how you certify. So originally, well, I don't know exactly how we first met them, but they did all kinds of workshops and seminars throughout the state. And we went to a bunch of those things, as many people as I could drag with me. And we'd go to these things and we'd sit in classrooms and learn, watch slideshows, showed pictures of egg masses and, okay, these are wood frog egg masses and these are spotted salamander egg masses, and learned how to differentiate them, and just the whole process of certification. And so we learned about the pools themselves and how to protect them.
And ever since you've learned how to certify them and protect them, I think you mentioned you're almost up to
Almost,
300.
yeah, I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 pools. Most of them are on Cape Ann and nearby. Every now and then I'll get a call from somebody in Quincy or something who says, hey, I think I got a vernal pool on my property, and I'll just ride down there and see what they got. And so we have a few that are from a little bit farther away, but the great majority is here on Cape Ann.
Yeah. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and we can't do that many pools in 1 year because it's a little bit of a process to get out there and find the time, especially when everybody has a real job. So it's kind of a weekend operation, and there's only, 4 weeks or 5 weeks when the egg masses are in the water, because they're going to hatch after that. And so we usually try and hit that time frame pretty hard. But even at that, maybe we've done 10 or 12 certification reports in a year's time, because sometimes you're trekking way out into Dogtown or something, and it takes you an hour just to get there. So,
and you were personally, you have, as one member of the team, were really a carpenter along the way.
yes,
And this was almost like a side passion,
spare
for
time
critters.
project for all of us, because everybody had a real job,
Yeah.
So, so it was some people can really get out there and storm the vernal pools if they're not working 40 hours a week too. But, we tried to make up for it with perseverance.
Yeah.
So we're still doing it.
And you've had some good sponsors along the way as of late, right?
Yes, we have. And
because that's the majority of your work is just done through grants or donations.
grants and donations, probably, we have.
But it's not even a lot of money.
No,
it's just enough to
not.
keep you moving around.
The first grant we ever got was in about early 1990s. It was from the New England Herpetological Society for $200 for film and developing. So we're going back. And, since then, we've been able to find more. I'm very bad at applying for grants, but I have other people who believe in vernal pools that are much better at it. So, we've never made a lot of money, but we've made enough to keep the organization afloat, and that's what we really care about.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Yeah, and you're also donating even space in your own house. I mean, you're saying you've got a lot of these critters that you're taking care of on a daily. We're about to show, I think, too.
Yes, yes, we are.
If you want, you can reveal our first critter.
All right,
and we can start telling
Here's
people
one of the
about them.
things that I'm gonna get out first. We already talked about the wood frog, the guy that quacks. They're a vernal pool obligate species, and they have kind of like a little Lone Ranger mask on them. And they're really a cute little frog, and they're the ones that quack. And I've actually had people come up to me when I'm walking through Ravenswood Park, where there's quite a few vernal pools, and I'm on my way to a vernal pool, and somebody stops me on the path and says, "Where are all the ducks?" Because there's hundreds of them calling from some of these huge pools out there, and they really do sound like that.
And this is just a 1.5-inch brown
Yeah,
frog.
yeah. And they call
Making
them
all
wood
that.
frogs because they live in the woods. They come to the pools to breed, and they're a land animal.
But this is not the frog that we're hearing right now at night as we're going to bed and we have our windows open because it's cooler outside in New England.
Here we go. A lot of people are hearing the spring peepers, at least in the early spring. And that is the frog that makes all the racket in the springtime. And they've got to be one of the loudest animals in the world for their size. And the thing is, when you get into a whole herd of them, like when you're right out there, the sound is multiplied and it's actually deafening to the point where it can disorient you. They're just incredible.
This thing, for size comparison, is like not bigger than the tip of my thumb. This is the frog that I'm hearing croaking all night, every night. It sounds actually like, it sounds nice.
Beep,
Yeah.
beep. Yeah, and it's most people have never been really that close to one, but you can't even hardly imagine how loud they are.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I'm gonna put another one of these. Well, maybe we'll take this guy out because he's kind of a slow mover. Watch him get away from me now.
Exactly. He's a little big. He'll go far.
Yeah. So there's a toad, and they're another, not an obligate vernal pool species because they will breed in other wetlands, but they often breed in vernal pools. Now, don't get any ideas about jumping off the table if you don't mind. And a toad is just a type of frog, okay? And you notice, see, most frogs, when they jump, they go boing. Toads go blit, 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 because they have really short hind legs, and they're kind of chunky. So they're not built for speed. And one of the things about them is that, see, they got these bumps on the side of their head. And those are poison glands. So even though they can't move very fast, they're protected from getting eaten.
The otters and whatever know not to eat them.
There's an awful lot of animals that don't eat these. I think the way evolution works is if you eat a toad and you die, you don't pass along your genes. And pretty soon, you just...
Well, that's the thing about these vernal ponds, right? Is this is the whole ecosystem. I mean, we're looking at, you talked about, you might have called it a shrimp almost.
Yeah, there's a fairy shrimp, which is a crustacean.
And then that's being eaten by a salamander, and then it just goes on and on. You can talk about it more. Up to the is it an otter behind you?
Well, the thing is, yes, that is an otter, and they're kind of a top predator in a vernal pool. But yeah, we start out, and say for instance, see, these are little spotted salamanders in here, and these are in their larval stage. So they haven't metamorphosed into adults yet. And they still have gills, and they're breathing, or they're taking air in through their gills, or water in through their gills, and gleaning oxygen from it. Those gills shrink as their lungs develop, and then when the gills disappear, the lungs are fully developed and they'll be land animals. And they crawl out of the pool, and they've usually done it by this time of year, but this one pool I was looking at the other day still has a little tiny bit of water in it. And so if they don't have to metamorphose quickly, they don't. It's the lack of oxygen, I think, that triggers the lungs to develop quicker.
Are they safer in the water? What's the main predator for these guys?
Well, there's all kinds of stuff in the water that will eat them. And for one thing, like birds of prey and, egrets and herons and ducks, and, they're always picking stuff out of the water, whether it's insects or these guys or something. They, all animals are subject to predation. If there was something that nothing ate, it would take over the world. So everything has to get pretty much eaten by something. And these things certainly are. The other thing is too, like these are just about ready to metamorphose. When they hatch, they're little tiny things, and even like aquatic insects eat them. You know,
Yeah,
water
when they're really
boatmen
small.
and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but these guys are pretty close to being ready to walk out onto the land, and they will grow as much as up to 8 inches. The spotted salamander, which I have a little thing here, but I lost it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, they look like a cartoon. They, yeah, I'm trying to center it in that thing there, but I can't figure out there. They bailed me out over there in camera. Yeah, and they don't get quite that big, but they can actually get 8 inches long. They're black like that with yellow spots. And
These are the ones that are crossing the road in Essex on the way to
yes,
to the Canomo Point.
yeah, and they, you know, it takes them several years before they're going to grow into adults and then go back to the pool to breed, but they can live 20 years. And just the slower it moves, the longer it can live, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And they mostly hide out. They live in the woods. They get under rocks and under logs where it's kind of moist. They don't drink water, but they take it in through their skin. So they like to be kept wet. So,
What else did you bring us today?
well, let me see. Another thing that I often find in our vernal pools, if I'm going to find a turtle, this is usually it. The spotted turtle. And we got a couple of them here. And these are both about, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. And they can get about 5 inch. And when you measure a turtle, it's the top shell or carapace. From there to there, 5 inches or so. This is the turtle we most often find in vernal pools. They like to travel around to different wetlands. They may feed in one, which is usually a vernal pool, because there's all kinds of like aquatic insects and these things that they can feed on. And then they will also travel to other wetlands they might breed in one wetland and overwinter in yet another. You know what they do in the winter?
What?
They get down under the ice, kind of burrow into the mud there, and just sit.
Like hibernate.
Yeah, underneath the ice in the water.
Huh.
So it's just crazy, but they're not moving, so they're not using any oxygen
Or energy.
or very little. And so they can take all the oxygen they need in through their skin. But, you know, just observationally, this is the turtle that I see. If I'm going to see a turtle in a vernal pool, it's usually these guys.
Okay.
And I think it's because they like to feed in there.
Yeah.
All kinds of aquatic insects and stuff.
All right. How about some of these heavy hitters? I know you brought me some snakes.
I did. Well, the thing is, you know, vernal pools, one of their reasons they're so important is that they're a lunch counter for wildlife, because if all the tadpoles that were hatched in there lived, we'd be up to our eyeballs in frogs in no time.
We sure would.
So something has to eat these things. And say, for instance, I have a lot of pillowcases, and some of them are decorative like this. But that's a good way to travel a snake. They're very secretive animals. And this is a garter snake. They love to eat earthworms and frogs and fish. So they're certainly not, they don't have to be found around vernal pools, but they often choose to. And I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but they have the most gorgeous tongue in the snake world. Scarlet red with black tips. All snakes have forked tongues, and all snakes use it to smell.
This snake's about, what, 1.5 feet?
Yeah, yep.
What do we think this garter snake's getting to in max out size?
He's getting a what?
How big do you think he would get?
Oh.
Is this it?
I see about, around here, the biggest garter snakes I see are usually about 2 feet.
Okay.
So this one's an adult, but it's not fully grown. And they don't all get the same size. You know, we all know people that are short and tall, and
Sure.
you know, same with snakes. But yeah, they don't have ears, so it's eyesight and smell. And so smell is very important to them, and that's why they stick their tongues out all the time. That's telling them a lot of information about the world around them.
Yeah.
Let me just. Now, one of the things is it might take a little time, but if you don't take time putting your snakes away properly, they will get loose on you. And, you know, some people find it disconcerting to have snakes loose in their office like this. And so I try to make sure that we don't lose any of them.
And you do, part of your day-to-day is you go do this at schools and other events.
We do.
Other places to educate people on critters in vernal ponds.
A couple of different kind of programs. We do vernal pool programs. And usually when we do that, we made a movie a while ago. It's called Vernal Ponds. It's 15 minutes long, and it's got all kinds of vernal pond critters in there, including some of the top predators like, you know, egrets and fox and otter. We were very fortunate to get a lot of really cool footage of frogs and salamanders and birds and mammals and just everything. By the way, there's a milk snake. And a milk snake is a type of king snake, and they call them that because they eat other snakes. They will also eat mice. And this is something that we do find in our vernal pond habitat because there are usually snakes there for them to eat, like garters and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So if somebody wanted to have the vernal pond team come to their school, elementary school, their public library, is that something that they could reach out to you on and book?
Yes.
For a small fee, essentially, you guys would put on an event for people that could attend?
Yeah. We go basically any place they'll have us. And, oh, here we go. I'm always losing the rubber bands. So anyways, what you do is you go to you can email me at CAVPT, which is a clever acronym for Cape Ann Vernal Pond Team, at yahoo.com. You can also go to our website and find our email on there in case you ever forget what I just said. And our website is capeannvernalpondteam.org. So there's a couple ways you can get a hold of us. And there you are.
Yeah. Get with the team. Put on a show.
Yeah. Now,
continue to support.
What I was going to try and find out, do you know how much time we have?
We got a couple more minutes.
All right.
You want to get a bunch of snakes out here?
Well, I'm gonna, just for the fun of it, I think.
This is why
that was what I just had.
This is our good. Here, I can take that one if you want.
Yeah, I just had this out. I lost my head.
This is where everybody's going to have to come visit us on social media and on YouTube. Yeah. If they've only been listening to us to date on the podcast, you're going to have to come see the videos to this, because the snakes are incredible here. I haven't seen some of these in my walking around. Obviously, I've seen the gardener. I've seen.
I wasn't going to do this one, but I'm doing it. Oh, here you go. This is what I was looking for. I have a tendency to lose track of things.
Lose track of snakes.
Yeah.
Andrew doesn't mind in his streamography studio here. Yeah. There's a couple snakes running around.
So that's a water snake, and this one is. Let me see what I got over here.
So by water snake, we're saying this guy is going to be in lakes, in the ocean. Where are we going to find this guy?
This is a freshwater species,
okay.
And they don't really live in the water, but they don't like to get too far away from there because their favorite food is fish and frogs.
Okay.
And what we're kind of getting into here is we do vernal pool presentations about frogs and salamanders and some of the predators, and Now we're getting into Snakes of New England and the World, which is our other presentation. And these are really not known to be found around vernal pools, although they will go there from time to time to eat frogs. They're more of a permanent water snake. And
There's
if you
nothing that
have-
creeps my wife out more than a snake in the water.
well, yeah, that'll do it for most people. My own sister has never touched a, she's 75 years old. She's never touched a snake in her life. And then for some reason I got the snake gene and she didn't. But anyways, this one's pretty calm, even though it's only been with me for, I don't know, maybe a month or two. And but if you have the wherewithal to catch up to a water snake in the wild, and most people don't, they couldn't sneak up on a corpse, you know, they stamp their feet and they just make all the racket and visual signals to let somebody know you're
The
coming.
snake's out of there.
Yeah, so if I want to find snakes, I go by myself or with other snake people. But yeah, if you have the wherewithal to catch up to one of these, they will bite you if you grab them. But in all these years of catching snakes, I started doing it 67 years ago. I've never been bitten by a snake I didn't pick up.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Just
as
leave
long as
it.
you stay here, granted, we only have 14 species in all of Massachusetts, whereas Arizona has over 100. No, if you're in Arizona, you got to be a little more careful. But around here, if you just leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
And just for the fun of it, I brought this baby. This snake is a new mom. And she had like 12 of these babies at my house. And there they go.
That's a quick one.
Yeah. So anyway, and it's biting me, which I thought is kind of fun.
That guy's gone.
Yeah. So it's not unusual for these snakes to try and make a break for it. But isn't that a cute little thing?
It is a cute little thing.
Yeah.
Can you capture that? Put it right here. Look how cute he is. So that one's brand new.
Yeah. This
We're
is
talking
like a week.
a week.
Week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway,
Here you go. Put that little one in here.
yeah.
I'll capture him for you.
All right. Now, whatever you do, make sure the lid's all the way on.
Yeah. I got
Okay,
you. I
thank
got
you.
your back.
That's all right. Good. All right. So I'm going to put this guy away, and
So-
yeah.
So we always like to try to give a little bit of a shameless plug at the end. I know we've talked about people going to the website and people reaching out if they have an event. I just wanted to check in. Is there anything coming up that you guys do event-wise, or if anybody wants to get involved in sort of the vernal pool certification process, you know, and going out in the spring next year and helping out, like,
yeah.
any call to action from the
The
community?
best thing to do is get a hold of us. You can go to our website in case you forgot our email address. You can also email me at CAVPT@yahoo.com. And there might be other ways to do it too, but I'm not sure what they are. And, you know, we're always happy to have people get in touch with us and do, I forgot what I was talking about. So
good.
anyway, but yeah, and as far as like donations and stuff like that, you can go to our website. There's a thing on the home page that says donate here. We take checks or credit cards or Venmo. So
And if you think you have a vernal pond that's not certified and we need to protect it, they can reach out too.
certainly a lot of the pools that we've certified have been called to our attention because somebody said, I think I have a vernal pool near my house or something. And, you know, and we go out and check it out and it either is or it isn't. But it usually, if they think it is, it is.
Yeah.
So
Well, this has been awesome. You want to flash a few more snakes in containers out here?
I could.
We'll get a few more and then we'll call it we'll
right.
wrap it a show.
Yeah. So just for the fun of it, everything we've brought out so far has been a local snake. And this one isn't. This is the Vietnamese blue beauty.
Whoa.
It is a type of rat snake, and a lot of snakes get called rat snakes because so many snakes eat rats. All snakes are carnivores. They eat some sort of living animal, and an awful lot of them eat rodents, and so they're very helpful
That thing is beautiful.
in rodent control. I mean, look how they change in pattern from front to back. You got this
We're talking 4
striped
feet
tail.
long,
it's
silver,
more than
blue
that.
beauty.
It's more like 6 feet long.
6 feet.
Not only
Look
that,
at
it's only 2 years old. It was hatched about this size.
But you call it Vietnamese, so
Yeah.
like, where is it normally?
Yeah, well, that's why they call it that, is because that's where it's from.
Yeah.
And yeah, this particular one. And you know, this is just one of the snakes that we use in Snakes of New England and the World. And it's, you know, it's a real pussycat. Some of these have been known to be a little edgy, but this one, you know, kids can handle it. So
Yeah.
yeah, you gonna try that out?
Yeah, we can try it out. We can
All
try
right.
it out. I haven't really been too actively holding here,
Yeah.
but we got to give the people what they want.
I think so.
We got that view. Look at this. Oh my God. My
Yeah.
kids would be so proud of me.
Yeah, and
And
while
I
you're
am
doing that,
absolutely
you know, I just
terrified.
want to thank Colleen Murdoch for getting in touch with me and saying,
the
hey,
chamber.
you want to do a podcast? And I said, what's a podcast? Because I'm about as technologically impaired as you can get. And then Andrew and Angus and Troy doing a nice job here. So it's really been kind of fun for me. And
It's different, right?
yeah,
Well, Rick, we appreciate you coming on, bud, and giving us the visual that we have never gotten and will never be able to replicate. Like this, people.
yeah.
Look at us over here at Cape Ann Conversations, bringing you Rick from the Cape Ann Vernal Pond team. Rick, dude, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for coming
Well,
on and
it's
telling us your story.
Absolutely
This
my
is so
pleasure
cool.
to do this. So here we are.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
What was this snake called again?